Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we peel back the layers of corporate filings to find what is really going on. Today we're diving into CF BANKSHARES Incorporated's latest report, and let's just say sometimes a director's departure tells a bigger story than a lengthy earnings call. So, what is the big news? CF BANKSHARES Inc. just filed a report indicating a significant change in their board of directors. This isn't just a simple reshuffle, folks. It is tied to specific shareholder agreements and ownership thresholds that are pretty interesting. We'll break down exactly why a director stepped down and what that might signal for the company's future. You won't want to miss this. And before we get too deep, if you find these kinds of corporate deep dives valuable, make sure you are subscribed. Also, check out the link in the description to join our Discord community where we chat about these filings and more. Alright, let's get straight into it. Today we're looking at CF BANKSHARES Incorporated. And the main event here is an announcement about a change in their leadership structure. It might sound dry, but these things can be pretty telling about a company's health and its relationships with its investors. The key piece of news is that on the 15th of December 2025, Sandeep Rana resigned from the board of directors. So, who is Sandeep Rana and why does his exit matter? It turns out he is not just some random board member. He was there as the designated representative of a significant investor called Castle Creek Capital Partners VFN LP, or Castle Creek for short. He had been on the board since July of 2021. This resignation wasn't out of the blue. It is directly linked to a pre-existing agreement, specifically a securities purchase agreement that was put in place back in October 2019. These agreements often detail specific rights and obligations that investors have, and in this case, it looks like Castle Creek's stake in CF BANKSHARES fell below a certain level. The crucial detail here is that Mr. Rana had to resign because Castle Creek, along with its affiliated companies, no longer owned at least 4.9% of CF BANKSHARES' outstanding common stock. Think of it like this: when Castle Creek invested a certain amount, they got the right to have one of their people on the board. But as their ownership percentage dropped below that 4.9% threshold, that right disappeared, and so did Mr. Rana's seat. This is a pretty common way for companies and major investors to structure their relationship, ensuring that board representation is aligned with ownership. What is important to note is that Mr. Rana's departure doesn't seem to be due to any major conflict or disagreement about how the company is being run. His resignation letter explicitly stated it wasn't because of any arguments over company operations, policies, or practices. This is good to see, as it suggests the change is purely administrative, stemming from ownership levels rather than internal turmoil. Now, while this filing doesn't contain detailed financial tables right here in this specific section, this type of information can often hint at broader trends. A significant investor reducing their stake to a point where they lose board representation could indicate a couple of things. It might mean Castle Creek has found better investment opportunities elsewhere. Or perhaps they've reached their desired return on investment for CF BANKSHARES and are cashing out. For CF BANKSHARES, this means they are now operating without direct representation from a major investor, which could change the dynamics of their board discussions and decision making. It is always worth keeping an eye on how a company navigates its relationships with its key shareholders, as this can impact strategy and future funding. Let's look at the company's basic information. CF BANKSHARES Inc. is incorporated in Delaware, with a commission file number of 0 to 25,045 and an IRS employer identification number of 34 to 1,877,000. 137, their principal executive offices are located at CIO CF Bank, 4960 East Dublin Granville RD, Suite 400, Columbus, Ohio 43081. Their phone number is 614-334-7979. The company's common stock, with a par value of $0.01, trades on the Nasdaq Global Market under the ticker symbol CFBK, having a stock listed on a major exchange. Like, Nasdaq is a sign of a certain level of maturity and transparency for the company. So, what does all this mean for CF BANKSHARES Incorporated? Well, the departure of a director tied to a major investor can be a neutral event, especially when it is driven by contractual clauses related to ownership percentage. It signifies a shift in investor influence, but not necessarily a negative one. It's important to remember that this filing itself is quite brief and focuses on a single event. To get a full picture of the company's financial health and strategic direction, you would typically need to look at their more comprehensive quarterly 10Q or annual 10, reports which would contain detailed financial statements and management discussions. However, we can infer a few things. The fact that Castle Creek had specific requirements about minimum ownership for board representation suggests a structured investment history, and their exit from that specific level of influence might mean they have confidence in the company's current leadership to manage operations without their direct oversight, or they have simply decided to reallocate their capital. The company's ability to maintain its NASDAQ listing is a positive sign. In terms of risks and opportunities, a potential risk is that losing the direct perspective of a large investor's representative could lead to a slight shift in strategic focus, though as we noted, there were no reported disagreements. An opportunity might be that the board can now operate with greater autonomy, making decisions purely in the interest of all shareholders without being tied to specific investor agreements. My conclusion on this specific filing is that it primarily signals a bureaucratic change dictated by an existing investment agreement. It is not an immediate red flag, but it is a piece of information that indicates evolving shareholder dynamics. If you are an investor, it is a prompt to look into CF BANKSHARES' overall ownership structure and recent financial performance to understand the broader context. Alright, that is our breakdown of CF BANKSHARES Inc. Latest filing. What is your take on these changes and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps us out, and subscribe for more deep dives into corporate documents. Don't forget to check out the Discord community link in the description for more discussions. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.